We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, if you need just a little bit of extra college football content to get you through the days, to get you through the nights, as we are 5 Saturdays away from the opening of college football, if you need just a little bit of more content, please subscribe to this channel. Smash that like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. Share it with your psychiatrist. Share it with your priest, your significant other. Share it across your personal social media platforms. Welcome into the house that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Welcome in. Welcome in. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to be a PATC legend in the comments or in the phone calls later in the show. You know how this works. We do a monologue, then we get to your comments, and then we get to your phone calls. It's a stack show today. Act 13 of the Holy Smokes Theater PAC-12 Saga begins today, July 25th. New wardrobe has been placed on the stage. There's a certain new furniture. That's the best way I can describe it. It's really not a furniture. It's more like an equipment. It's been placed on the stage. There's a different vibe. We're going to talk about it here. Also, Big Ten Media Days this week. ACC Media Days started today. Jim Phillips says that the relationship between the ACC and ESPN is stronger than ever. ACC has started women's gymnastics, the Conference of Women's Gymnastics. There's 4 ACC teams that have women's gymnastics. I believe they must have added a couple other ones. So that's news. Mike Elko, the head football coach of Duke, they won 9 games last year. There's a lot of steam about this year's squad. Can they repeat the 9 wins from last year? They have a difficult schedule, but there's a lot of positive steam surrounding the Duke Blue Devil football program, Mike Elko, signs an extended contract to remain as the head football coach. You know, because Northwestern, they're looking around for a permanent head coach. Don't believe it's going to be Mike Elko. Big Ten Media Days, Big Ten Media. Starting tomorrow, the Big Ten Media Poll gets released today. Not enough love from the Nittany Lions. Not enough love in Wisconsin and Iowa. 1 point different in the voting between Wisconsin and Iowa for first place at the Big Ten. We'll take a look at that. Also, there was an article yesterday by Saturday Tradition. The top things that Mike Hickey, the person who wrote the article from Saturday Tradition, top items that he's looking forward in the Big Ten Media Days. We're going to go through that real quick. I'm going to add a few items of my own. Put down your comments. Welcome in breakfast time at PATC. Breakfast time. Thanks to you all who could come in today. Hopefully later today, a lot of people catch the rerun, catch this video live stream. I know it's a very unusual hour. We've done this before, breakfast at PATC. We're going to do it again in the future. If you're part of the PATC community, you got to put your head on a swivel. You never know when we're going to pop up next. I think we needed to usher in Act 13 in a special way. Act 12 lasted from June 1st to July 24th. Today, July 25th, Tuesday. It's not the same environment as it was on June 1st. Let me explain. Okay. First of all, I want to thank the people who have come into the chat real quick here. Curtis Brown, let's go. Ryan Martin. Boy, it's early, Greg. Yes, it is. For some of you, it's even earlier than it is for me. Luis Carlos Diaz, thanks for coming on in. Appreciate it. Extra, I don't know how to say that. Estazion Nala Salas, thanks for coming on in. Appreciate it. BR7062. K-Do, thanks for coming on in. Appreciate it. Provo Cougar fans, was worried you might be sick? No. Just very, very busy. We wanted to make sure we could squeeze in a live show today. I have been extremely busy, and I know everybody in the chat has been busy as well with their lives, so I'm not going to wring my hands over it, but we've been very busy here in the household. Jim Reese, thanks for coming on in. Randy Taylor, thanks. CBS, College Football Plus, Conundrum, Larry Keith, Big 12 Mafia, the Holy Rivals Show, thanks for coming on in. Appreciate it, Nathan. Two Mastas in the house. Nick Flynn, Mason Randolph, Black Rain is in the house. Omega Supreme, my brother from another mother, Sparty, he's probably a little upset this morning. Black Rain is probably a little bit upset this morning because Maryland had more votes than the Michigan State Spartans. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. Everybody, thanks for coming on in. I appreciate it. Now, Charles Chamberlain, Secret Agent, Cameron B., Andrew Bennett, Sean Elton, Sean Eaton, Matt Neeson, BYU, Patrick, Baylor, Bears, thanks for coming in. Bill G., whole bunch of people piling in this morning. Let's get to the show. First of all, we got a lot to get through, so just hang with us. Monologue is going to be a little long today. Okay? Monologue is going to be a little long today. We'll get to your comments. Please, if you want me to get to your comments sooner rather than later, you can put a donation to the show. We're Independent College Football YouTube channel. Hit that $, make a comment. I'll get to you as soon as I possibly can. But we got a stacked show. Earlier this week, a couple days ago, we're only on Tuesday, July 25th. I received a whole bunch of direct messages. A lot. I'm telling you, from everywhere. And I love to get direct messages. PATC community, keeping their head on a swivel, letting me know the latest updates throughout the college football landscape. Everywhere. From G5 schools from FCS schools, from Big Ten, from Big 12, from Pac-12. I think the PATC community keeps sending information my way. But I got a lot of DMs about these hot rumors that came about. Now, this was 2 days ago. So this was Sunday evening. I started receiving them Sunday morning. I didn't really pay attention. Of course, I read the DMs, but I can't possibly answer all of them. All this stuff about UConn joining the Big 12 this week. There was some stuff about how Colorado has, in some other Big 12 schools, already have the Big 12 application in front of them, and they're mulling it over. I got some people sending me screenshots of people believing this and reporting this and spreading it around. And I just had to answer it Sunday evening. Number one, we have no steam on UConn, the Big 12 announcement happening this week. Zero. We don't have any steam of any announcement happening this week. We'll get into why. We'll get into it. There's a lot to get into here. Number two, no school, including Colorado, has applied to the Big 12 as of tonight, as of right now, today. We'll get into Colorado as well. We got a lot of stuff to get into, but this UConn, well, let me get to my next tweet, right? Let me get to my next tweet. I'll get to UConn. We'll hit Colorado. Again, this was yesterday, because I'm getting more of this stuff. And if you actually do have a controlled, positive message to release, this is not the week to do so. However, Act 13 at Holy Smokes still begins tomorrow, which is today. Entirely different vibe. Will take over the stage, and it has, and we'll talk about it. But again, Act 13 begins today. Different vibe, some new wardrobe, some different stuff's been going on. But this is not, let me put it to you this way. If Colorado, let's just say for example, if there was breaking news today that Colorado is joining the Big Ten, I would be very, very surprised. Now, would I be shocked? Would I be shocked that Colorado is joining the Big 12? No. Look, we have that as the favorite, the chalk to do so. I think most people now out there on Twitter, or now we call it X, out there on message boards, everywhere. I think most people finally understand that Colorado going to the Big 12 is a very strong possibility. We have it as the favorite. We've had it since February 24th that the Big 12 would successfully poach at least one Pac-12 school. And it has to do with the Pac-12 media negotiations. It hasn't been good. We don't believe it still is good. We'll get to that as well. But most people now understand. There's a couple people still out there that don't quite get it. But most people, even the ones who believe the Pac-12 will lose no schools to the Big 12, and that is a reasonable position. Even those people, most of them, now admit that Colorado and the Big 12 have had serious talks. The hot bubble of action we talked about was real, and we were not able to talk about the details of it until Pete Thamel broke it open on ESPN. He didn't tell the date, but we've told you the date, May 7th, Sunday in Chicago. There's been other big events that had happened within University of Colorado in regards to the donors, getting them on board May 24th, May 31st. There's been a couple of conference affiliation discussions within the Colorado Board of Regents. We confirmed one of them, June 6th. We have another one confirmed, but we cannot talk about it at this point. We've given pretty specific dates and information at Peek Around the Corner. If Colorado decides to join the Big 12, everything I just told you will be included in long articles written to the day of, the week of, the month afterwards in regards to the Colorado Pac-12 Big 12 story. These will all be included by not me, by other major college football reporters. So all that will be included. So most people finally understand, yes, this is serious. The Pac-12 could lose a school, at least one of them, to the Big 12. Serious talks. But of course, only Colorado knows when they will stick or go. Okay? There has been, and we cannot get to the details of it today, but what I'm about to tell you, this will also be included in the story that is written. Even if Colorado decides to stay in the Pac-12, all of what I just said will be in the stories that will be written by college football reporters. You know, The Athletic, I'm about to get to something new here, but The Athletic just put out a series of articles, Scott Dochterman, about realignment in the past, and there were some close calls in the past, but a lot of those commissioners, former commissioners or former athletic directors, still really can't talk about those situations because they signed an NDA. But some of them people can talk about, like how close Texas came to joining the Pac-12. If Colorado doesn't join the Big 12, the stories will be written about how close the Colorado Buffaloes joined the Big 12, how close they came to join the Big 12. Now, we still think it's going to happen. We have the odds favoring that Colorado will join the Big 12. Okay? But it hasn't happened yet. Colorado has not asked for an application yet. They're not looking at an application yet. Those reports are false, if you believe what we're saying here at Peek Around the Corner. Thank you, Maria, for coming on in. Appreciate it. Okay, that's the moderator, the wife, the little general who rules with an iron fist. It's breakfast time here at PATC. Now, I can't get into the details of this at all. Later on, I will, and it will be reported by others and written by others. But I'll just say it in this manner. There has been, now remember, we've told you about the month of May, May 7th, May 24th, May 31st. There has been direct communications between Colorado and the Big 12 here in the month of July. Direct communications. Not an in-person meeting, but direct communications about the situation. That's all that we can say. In the month of July, that's all that we can say. So this has continued to be a very serious stance between Colorado and the Big 12. Colorado knows exactly what they're going to get from the Big 12. They know exactly what they're going to get. There's no negotiations going on, but there was more discussions. Okay. Now, you've seen the reports of Ross Dellinger. You've seen the reports of how DiStefano said he needed to see clear numbers on Thursday. He wanted more clarity. They didn't receive them. You saw the story of Rick George, the athletic director, leaving right after lunch, right after George Kliakoff talks, got out of there without answering a whole lot of questions from the reporters. We were told it wasn't so much that Rick George didn't want to answer questions from the reporters. He didn't want to answer questions from his fellow colleagues within the Pac-12. Colorado has a decision to make. We believe they haven't made it yet. We're pretty sure they haven't made it yet. So, but we'll continue on with this story. We've still got a lot to get through. We haven't even got to Act 13. But I wanted to put that out there because there's a whole lot of Colorado or UConn's making an announcement. Colorado. Look, let me say this. Back to this tweet. Back to this tweet. If you actually do have a controlled, positive message to release, this is not the week to do so. Okay, look. If Colorado calls the commissioner of the Big 12 right now, as we're doing this live show, and says, T. Stefano and Rick George are on the phone, they're talking to George Kliakoff, and they're talking to Brett Yormark, and they say, we want in, we want it in, we want in, we want it announced today, we want you guys to vote on it tonight, let's wrap this up. Brett Yormark is not going to turn them down. Brett Yormark is going to say, yes, let's do it. Right? But this is, if Colorado is ready to jump ship, this is not the week that Brett Yormark wants it done. We've been told this is not it. This is not it. For a couple reasons that we're not going to talk about here, but a couple reasons we are going to talk about here on this live show. One of the main reasons is, you have ACC Media Days starting today. You have the Big Ten Media Days starting tomorrow. You have Fox Sports. Big Ten is their baby, right? They own 61% of the Big Ten network. They have controlling interest, basically, of the whole conference outside the institutions. They're the ones who do the negotiations of the media negotiations. They will again 6 years from now. This is Fox Sports' baby right here, right now. They don't want any challenging messaging going on while it's Big Ten Media Day this week. NBC, CBS, this is their first year. Big Ten football. They're going to be there. They're already there. They're going to pipe this up. They're not the ones that are showing the Big Ten Media Days, but they are involved. They are involved. There's cross promotion already going on. So, what does that have to do with Brett Yormark? Well, it has a lot to do with Big 12 and Brett Yormark. Fox Sports has been very instrumental into what Brett Yormark has been able to do and what he wants to do going forward. Act 13, we're going to get to it. But Fox Sports is a big part of Brett Yormark's vision. Fox Sports does not have a contractual obligation to fulfill the pro rata. ESPN does. Fox Sports does not. Which means that if Colorado decides to join the Big 12, ESPN, they'll pay them just like they pay the other Big 12 schools. Fox Sports doesn't have to, but Fox Sports is willing to do so. There's been other reports on that. I know there are some people that disagree, but you can take it however you want it here at Peek Around the Corner. But Colorado joins the Big 12. They're getting that $31.7 million media money. So would Arizona. So would Arizona State. So would Utah. Fox Sports is going to make everybody whole. And Colorado knows that. So does Arizona. So does Arizona State. So does Utah. Fox Sports is the one with ESPN that allowed Brett Yormark to come 18 months, jumped in front of the line of the Pac-12 when Pac-12 did not like the numbers that Fox and ESPN gave them. But Fox Sports allowed to move that exclusive window up. Brett Yormark talked with them. They got the deal done. most of Brett Yormark's Big 12 basketball, the best basketball conference in the country, is going to be on Fox Sports. Right? Fox Sports loves it. Brett Yormark loves it. So, get back to my tweet. Get back to this. If you actually do have a controlled, positive message to release, this is not the week to do so. Okay. I'm hoping that tweet makes some sense. Now, of course, I didn't want to talk about what I wanted to talk about Act 13. We haven't even got to Act 13 yet, but I didn't want to talk about the show until we get to the show. And we got to the show as early as possible. We're doing it in the morning here because I know people were anxious. This was the time that we could slip it in here. So I hope that makes sense. I hope we've provided some clarity. Again, if Colorado calls Brett Yormark today and says, we want in, Brett Yormark isn't going to say no. But this is not the week for the Big 12 to unleash some sort of big positive message in regards to expansion or some other deal that they're going to get done. They did that last week. Brett Yormark has put out positive messaging, Rutgers Park basketball, Mexico, Big 12 Mexico. He's not going to do it this week. At least if he has control of it, he's not going to do it this week. Okay, I'm glad we got through that. Now, Act 13. First thing you see is the front foyer. The popcorn line is long. There's somebody new standing in the popcorn line. Somebody we haven't seen in a couple months. Remember, we stated on July 16th, that was 9 days ago. It's going to be a different vibe. It's going to be a different vibe. This is not Act 12. This is Act 13. The person standing in that popcorn line is Gonzaga. Now, there's going to be more information on that, but that's the first thing I wanted to point out. Gonzaga, who jumped in the car and drove away a couple months ago and haven't been seen in the Holy Smokes Theater, is now in the popcorn line. Why did they come back? Why are they getting themselves a bucket of popcorn? Well, they don't, here in the first day of Act 13, they don't remain in that popcorn line. But I just wanted to first show you that. We'll get to more of Gonzaga in a second. UConn, they were in the fifth row in Act 12. They're now seated in row 20. From the fifth row to the 20th row, there is still legit interest. We'll get to it. But UConn is no longer in the first 5 rows. They moved all the way up into Act 12. They were in the front foyer, 40th row, 35th row, bam, 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 all the way to 5th row. But now they're back. They're sitting back, 20th row. Arizona State, Utah are no longer in the first row. They're moved back to the 15th row. UConn 20th, Arizona State and Utah have moved back to the 15th row. They're still in the auditorium. They're still looking at the stage. Okay? Arizona is no longer an arm's length away from Colorado. Almost at this center of the stage. They have walked off and now they're at the edge of the stage. So everybody has gone back a few paces. Different vibe. We're not even close to setting this stage up. We're not even finished. We're not even close to being finished. Arizona is at the edge of the stage. You remember how we've been talking about Colorado's been at the center of the stage, along with George Kliavkoff on one side and Brett Yormark on the other side. Colorado's still at the center of the stage. They're still the tip of the spear when it comes to somebody moving out of the Pac-12 to the Big 12. It would be Colorado first. Colorado probably, most likely, almost most definitely first and only them in the first wave if something should happen. Colorado's still at the center of the stage. However, Brett Yormark, he's given Colorado a pat on the back. He gave them a pat on the back, and Brett Yormark has walked off the stage. Remember, according to what we said earlier in this live show, there has been another discussion, direct discussions between Colorado and the Big 12, and it's happened sometime in July. We're not going to be able to give you the date right now. Again, it will come out just like the other information we have given you in May. Colorado, from our aspect, is still favored to join the Big 12. But Brett Yormark doesn't need to be standing on the stage any longer. Everything that Colorado could possibly know, Big 12, Brett Yormark has told them. Vice versa. Brett Yormark doesn't need to be there. He's not going to be standing there during Act 13. There's some other stuff he's going into this week, which we're going to talk about here at the beginning of Act 13. So he's given Colorado a pat on the back. He's walked off the stage. He's walking down the aisle between the rows, and he's going back into the front foyer. We'll get to that in a second. George Kliavkoff is still there next to Colorado. He's still standing there. He feels the need to be still there. Okay? Behind them is a clothes rack. Hooks, hangers, that's the wardrobe that had been put in by the loading dock crew that came in a truck. Remember we talked about the new wardrobe? And there's basketball uniforms hanging there. Okay? New wardrobe. Basketball uniforms. Brett Yormark goes to the back to the foyer. He sees Gonzaga in the popcorn line. He waves his finger, says, "Come here." He takes Gonzaga, and they go into the auditorium. They're walking down the aisle, Gonzaga and Brett Yormark. Brett Yormark takes a look at UConn in the 20th row and says, UConn gets up from his seat. They walk up on the stage. They take that clothes rack, the hangers with the basketball uniforms. They grab that and they go behind the curtain, behind the stage, and they start having their discussions. Peek around the corner. Again, we can't get into too much of the details, but somebody else will report it. It will come out. We're giving you the peek at Holy Smokes Theater that Brett Yormark is actively, more aggressively going to be pursuing the possibility of basketball-only schools in the Big 12. having discussions this week with schools, with media companies. And that is going to be a stronger point of Brett Yormark developing more of his vision in Big 12 expansion. He wants to decouple basketball media, the content from football content 5-6 years from now when they start renegotiating. There's a stronger than the possibility of Big 12 only schools in basketball is higher than it was before. And Brett Yormark is he's creating time, space, and a schedule for this to be discussed and negotiated even more. That does not cancel out the total possibility of UConn entering the Big 12 as a full member. It does not. However, the basketball-only portion of it is going to be discussed more than ever. That does not signal that Brett Yormark is suddenly believing that he can't get any Pac-12 schools on board. That's not it either. It's just that these discussions are maturing, developing, that the Big 12 basketball-only editions are becoming a stronger possibility. In addition to full membership expansion with some Pac-12 schools. Okay? So, Gonzaga, who's been out of the auditorium for the last 2 months, went into the popcorn stand, gonna buy some popcorn. Brett Yormark suddenly pulls him out of the line, takes Gonzaga and UConn into the back, behind the curtain. The wardrobe is there. The basketball uniforms are there. And there is the basketball, the hoops, the basketball stand. The basketballs are on the ground behind the curtain. This was all loaded up on the loading dock, placed behind the curtain. So that's Brett Yormark's emphasis this week and going forward. To the point where we believe here at Peek Around the Corner that St. John's, walking down the street, has opened that front foyer and they're taking a look at the popcorn line. Maybe they want to take a look. Maybe they want to stay there. Maybe they'll be caught on camera. Maybe they'll get Brett Yormark's attention. Just in case something doesn't pop for both UConn and Gonzaga. We talked about this was going to be a different vibe here in Act 13. We're waiting for Colorado's decision to stick or go. Brett Yormark has done everything possible. Colorado has lined everything up. Colorado is still waiting for the Pac-12 media, the numbers, the deal. They're putting pressure. That's been reported. They want to see the numbers now. Now, where are the numbers? We're getting finally some positive leaks sort of coming out of the Pac-12, right? Towards the media. We're still not getting any meat on the bone. But some, it could be NBC. It could be Fox, 247 Sports. Brandon Marcello reported that, according to his sources, that Fox was back into it. We have not been able to confirm that. We have not been able to confirm that Fox would be back in the mix dealing with the Pac-12 media negotiations. We had one source say, no, that's not happened. We had the other source saying, cannot confirm it either way. But it's been no for months for Fox Sports. NBC, that would be put on basically USA Network, NBC Universal. Can't confirm it. We got nothing. Apple TV, would they be the dominant streaming partner of Pac-12 and then sub-license some content out? Again, the question has always been this. Where does the Pac-12 Tier 1 content go? Their top content throughout the year. Where does it get played? Where would we see it? Where's the visibility? Where is it? Where is the Oregon-Washington game? Where is the Utah-Oregon State game? They're both 7-0, week 8, whatever. Where is that game being played? Where are their marquee games throughout the season going to be played? There is some steam. There is some steam that the Pac-12 has some small linear media company ready to take on some Tier 3 linear content, women's basketball, some men's basketball, some Tier 3, basically Pac-12 football. But where is the top, the cream of the Pac-12 content? Where is that going to be played? Let's take a look at this. This was in Front Office Sports this morning. QUE. Let me take a look at something here. I want to get his full name. Apple Senior Vice President. Apple Senior Vice President Eddie Q. Pushing back on the idea of buying a package for the Premier League, soccer football league, rights that would be limited to a specific country or region. So the Premier League, right, negotiating their next media package. Apple TV is like, we don't want just part of it. We don't want just limited the content that the teams from a specific country or region of the country or region of the world. We're a global company. This is what Eddie Q is saying from Apple Senior Vice President. Later in the Front Office article, what does that mean for other properties interested in partnering with Apple, like the NBA or the Pac-12? This isn't, hey, I've got an opening from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. tonight, and I'm going to put this game on, Q said. Eddie Q, Vice President, Senior Vice President. That's not the way we're doing it. We're all in on this from an investment point of view, so it doesn't work unless it's something significant. I just wanted to point that out because, again, for us at Peek Around the Corner, this whole Pac-12 saga has always been about the deal. What can they get in the deal? And it's been negative. Everything we've been told has been negative. From Arizona State Money Perch point of view, from other sources' point of view. And you can see how it's played out throughout the months. They haven't been able to get the deal. Washington State president said there'd be a 7 out of 10 chance they would see numbers, a real deal on June 30th. It did not happen. From the very get-go, from months ago, I think it was February, the Pac-12 presidents put out a statement saying in the near future they're going to get a media deal done. It didn't happen. So it hasn't been just the Pac-12 athletic directors who put out deadlines and that have been incorrect. It's not just those writers on the Pacific Coast who have put out deadlines saying that July 21st is a drop dead date, or somebody else who said circle the date of March 17th on your calendar. It's been actually the presidents themselves, President, Washington State president, and all the presidents who put out that statement, Pac-12 statement. I wonder if I still have it. I might not. That doesn't look like I still have it. But they put out a statement saying we anticipate in the near future a media deal getting done. So, Apple TV, man, if they are in this Pac-12 media package, if they are in, they're going to play the top tier 1 games. It's going to be them. They're not going to sub-license the top games. They're going to own most of it. They're going to show most of it. That's what Apple TV does. It doesn't mean that they won't part ways with some of the content. It doesn't mean, like we said earlier, we believe there's potentially a loose framework of a small linear media company, a media company that can provide linear content to the conference when it comes to tier 3 content. But Apple TV, if they're in this thing, they're going to be showing the Washington and Oregon game. They're going to be showing the top games throughout the season. And is that good enough in 2024, 2025, 2026? That might be where you want your tier 1 games being played 5 years from now, 10 years from now, or maybe never. But as Apple TV becomes more aggressive into having live sport content on their streaming platform, maybe it becomes what you want 5, 6, 7, 8 years from now. But do you want that as a Pac-12 institution in 2024? That's a massive gamble. That is a massive gamble that we don't believe some Pac-12 institutions are willing to take. Amazon, they grabbed NFL Network Thursday night package. The ratings went down 40%. It doesn't mean it was a bad long-term play for Amazon. It doesn't mean it was a long-term bad play for the NFL. The NFL is not the Pac-12. Pac-12 is not the NFL. Can the Pac-12 actually survive that much reduction in visibility and exposure in 2024? They already have the lowest number of eyeballs. They're already losing the Los Angeles market schools of UCLA, USC. Are you telling me they're willing to gamble and have their tier 1 product on Apple TV? It's a huge step. It's a huge step for Colorado to make a decision to leave their like-minded institutions, large research universities in the Pac-12, a huge step to go back to the Big 12. You can see it. If you believe the reports, if you believe our reports and others, that they have been in long talks with the Big 12 for months. Shot to the solar plex, to the Pac-12 type of meeting on May 7th when Colorado met with the Big 12 in person in Chicago. And by the way, they had a meeting with the Big 12 previous to that. It wasn't as serious as this one, but they've had 2 in-person meetings. It's a big, huge step for Colorado to make the move. But it's also a massive gamble to put your tier 1 top content behind Apple TV in 2024, 2025, 2026. And I don't think after reading the senior vice president's statement that Apple TV is willing to sell off Washington and Oregon to a different company in the middle of the season, at the end of the season, that's just not going to happen. Apple TV is going to be all in or almost all in on whatever product, whatever live sport product they get the distribution rights to. That is a massive gamble on a massive scale for an Oregon or a Washington or Utah to go down that path. Ask yourself, why has it been 12 months and the Pac-12 hasn't gotten a deal done? They're the only ones out there in the market. Only college football, A5, Autonomous 5, conference that is out there trying to get a deal. They don't have any competition in the college football, college sports landscape. None, zilch, nada. They're the only game in town. And why do you think they're having a tough time getting the immediate deal done? Because what the commissioner and this negotiation staff has been able to present to the Pac-12 presidents is not real numbers, not real comprehensive plan, but what's ever been set in front of the Pac-12 presidents is not good enough. Okay, real quick, I know it's been a long monologue. I want you to get to your comments and phone calls. Big Ten, Phil Steele, Big Ten media poll. Big Ten East media poll. Michigan, first place in the East. The Buckeyes, second place. Penn State, only 2 first place votes. Not enough love given to the Nittany Lions. The Maryland Terrapins, more votes than Michigan State. I don't think anybody should be surprised at that. Rutgers 6, Indiana 7 in the West. Wisconsin 233, Iowa 232. Now we at PATC, we got Iowa winning the Big Ten West this year, and remember it's Greg the Heater in 2023, not Greg the Cooler. Look who they've got for number 3 in the Big Ten West, my beloved Minnesota Golden Gophers. They've got 1 first place vote, and it was not Ryan Burns of Minnesota 247. He made that publicly known. It wasn't him who put the first place vote on the Gophers. So who is that genius writer out there? Who is that genius media person out there who's got the Gophers winning the Big Ten West? I don't know. Hopefully we'll find out shortly here. Illinois 4, Nebraska 5, Purdue 6, Northwestern number 7. Okay, so we're going to get to your comments. Thank you, Carson, for your super chat. I wouldn't pay for the pack now. Why would I pony up? Thank you, Carson, for your super chat, for your generosity to this channel. I appreciate it. Act 13. It's a different vibe. Brett Yormark doesn't have to stand up on stage. No more communications needed with Colorado. Doesn't need to be there. George Kliavkoff feels he needs to be there. Brett Yormark is working on something else. Working on the potential of adding basketball-only schools. Maybe some Big 12 fans don't like that. Maybe some do. Remember, Brett Yormark, one of the things he wants to do is become a national conference to finish, to fill that 4th time slot with football content. No doubt about it. To get some of those Pac-12 four-corner schools. But his other goal is to increase his best basketball conference in the country, to increase the value by even going the step of adding basketball-only schools. Brett Yormark having serious conversations this week. We're not going to get into what day, exactly who's going to be in the room. We'll let other people do that this week. This week, serious conversations. Gonzaga has been gone for 2 months. They haven't even been in the auditorium. Remember, we said Gonzaga and the Big 12 were 2 ships passing in the night. What Gonzaga wanted wasn't exactly what the Big 12 wanted. Well, I think Gonzaga has capitulated. I think Gonzaga has put down their vision just a little bit, what they can get out of a Big 12 relationship. It looks like it could be basketball only or nothing at all. Gonzaga might have wanted, they definitely wanted a little bit more than just basketball only. But those 2 ships are not passing in the night anymore. Gonzaga decided to go into the auditorium. They got into the popcorn line. Brett Yormark said, come on with me, took Gonzaga, UConn in the back of the stage, behind the curtain in St. John's, out of nowhere. Comes in the front foyer and decides to get into the popcorn line, going to buy their bucket of popcorn, going to get a seat in the auditorium, and hopefully they're hoping to get caught on camera so Yormark knows that they are there. And I think Brett Yormark does know that they are there in the auditorium. We're going to get to your comments right now, then to your phone calls. Holy smokes. Sorry, it's been a long monologue. I didn't even get to the article of Hickey from Saturday Tradition. We'll get to that on an episode or another live show, maybe tomorrow. We will see. Good morning, Greg. Good morning to you. Colorado goes alone from Alan Tran. It isn't so much Arizona has changed. Arizona getting from arm lengths away from Colorado to the edge of the stage, with Arizona State and Utah peeling back some rows from the front row to the 15th row. Brett Yormark leaving the stage, no longer with Colorado. This is all about Colorado, more than ever. This is, Arizona's taking a step back. They're going to still look at their options if Colorado leaves, but Arizona should no longer be as close to Colorado as they were in Act 12. Act 13, they're at the edge of the stage. Everybody's waiting on Colorado, but Brett Yormark doesn't need to say another word. He doesn't need to stand there. Brett Yormark feels confident something's going to pop positively for the Big 12. We at Peek Around the Corner agree with them. George Kliavkoff is not leaving Colorado's side. They're no longer both of them standing next to Colorado. But we're not saying that Arizona, if Colorado moves, Arizona's going to be the next one we're all looking at, but they're no longer one arm length away from Colorado. Arizona, the discussions haven't. Colorado is definitely 3 levels above Arizona in regards to Colorado's interest of the Big 12 and the work that's been done behind the scenes. So it's not, we can no longer have Arizona an arm lengths away from Colorado. I hope everybody understands our point of view on that. Colorado, center stage, everybody has peeled back a little bit, and UConn and Gonzaga has been taken behind the curtain. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Arizona's still in the auditorium. So is Arizona State and Utah. They haven't walked out of it. They've taken a step back. They're in more back row. Arizona State and Utah have gone back to the 15th row. The spotlight is definitely on Colorado more than ever. And Kliavkoff's standing there hoping that Colorado sticks. And Brett Yormark, with even more discussions some point here in July, that happened. There's nothing left to say other than a phone call. Other than Colorado asking for the application form, there's nothing left to say. But Act 13, different vibe. Brett Yormark, he's pushing not an additional direction for the future of the conference. The possibility of basketball-only schools is now front and center of what Brett Yormark's vision is, and it could affect what happens between the Pac-12 and the Big 12. So, Bobby Robbins, he of course wants Bobby Robbins on PAC Executive Committee equals Arizona pushing back. Arizona, they want to see the numbers. Robbins is more patient than others, But Robbins does not want this big-time streaming package. He's got to see linear, and right now they haven't seen it. They have not seen 50% linear package from the Pac-12 presidents. Robbins is not interested in this big-time Apple TV owning all or most of the content. Robbins is not interested in that. That's what we've heard from day one. That's what Robbins has said in public. So again, it's still up to the Pac-12 commissioner to deliver a deal. Robbins is just more patient. He knows that Colorado would go before him. So Robbins doesn't have to be the tip of the spear. He doesn't have to be the one that makes the first decision. It's Colorado. And we can no longer have Arizona an arm lengths away. The difference in what Colorado has done and what Arizona has done with the Big 12 is too big at this point. The gap is too huge. Can't have Arizona an arm lengths away from Colorado. This is Act 13. This is no longer Act 12. So we had to move Arizona from arm lengths away, almost at the center of the stage, at the edge of the stage. And then we had to do the same with Arizona State and Utah because they haven't shown the interest as Arizona has. They are interested in what happens with Colorado, but we had to move them back to the 15th row. You got to make the adjustments all over the place. There's wardrobes, there's basketball uniforms, there's a basketball hoop set up in the back of the stage. As Brett Yormark is now focusing and putting more time into the possibility of only basketball ads in the Big 12. In addition to what he's doing right now, trying to add the Four Corners schools, one or more of those schools. I'm sure they do. UConn wants basketball and football. I'm sure UConn would want to go on with the whole, and there's still that possibility, but it's not. If that happens, it's not happening anytime soon. That's why this information, all these rumors, all these reports from people I don't know who they are, it doesn't mean that they're wrong just because I don't know who they are. But all this stuff about UConn this week happening, no steam. It doesn't make sense. UConn to the Big 12 this week. That's not how Brett Yormark, that's not how they're doing this. It's a dominoes, right? It's dominoes. You wait for the largest pieces to fall. UConn, Big 12 isn't making a move on UConn. They're not offering any invitations to UConn until they figure out what happens with the Four Corners schools. It made the UConn stuff absolutely made no sense. And the Colorado, asking the whole Colorado thing this week is not what people outside of Colorado would want to happen. Not this week. There's too much going on. For Fox, Big Ten, ACC. You know, if Brett Yormark gets the call from Colorado, if Colorado asks for an application, Brett Yormark wants to go big time on the news. He wants to have it dominate the first couple days within a new week. He wants it to be a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. He wants to push it out there. If he's able to control the messaging, Brett Yormark would not want to have it happen this week. He just won't. Again, you know, if Colorado calls today and says, we need it announced today, Brett Yormark's not going to say no, but I would be shocked. I would be very surprised if it happened. So that's why we put out the tweet a couple days ago. It's a very interesting week. Brett Yormark is doing some stuff. He's pushing, he's developing a possibility, another avenue to expand the conference more than ever, more aggressive than ever. meetings this week. It's a whole different avenue. We've talked about it before, but this is the week, in the coming weeks, that Brett Yormark is pushing the envelope on a possible basketball-only additions to elevate the best basketball conference in the country, to elevate its value even more, because he anticipates decoupling the basketball content with the football content to sell it separately 4 or 5 years from now, whenever he starts his new negotiations, media rights negotiations. And Brett Yormark doesn't have to be with Colorado anymore. Doesn't have to stand there on the stage. He's off the stage. Colorado is only one there with George Kliavkoff trying to keep them to stay in the Pac-12 long enough for them to see a decent Pac-12 media deal. Cameron B., what the real drop date? This can't go on forever. Well, we didn't think it was going to go on until August, because we thought that the Pac-12 presidents would force the Pac-12 commissioner to give them their best deal sometime earlier than August. Now that hasn't happened. The only one that seems to have put pressure on George Kliavkoff is the Chancellor of Colorado, which happened last week, according to reports from Ross Dillinger. The real drop date? Well, this current media contract ends July 1st, 2024. The grant of rights, the current Pac-12 grant of rights, ends August 1st, 2024. So, you got to have a media deal by late next summer. Technically, I think that would be the real drop date. But psychologically, I don't think this can go on much longer. I don't think these schools are going to hang around that much longer. James Crapia, the Oregon writer, was on 365 Sports, and he said that the Pac-12 better have a media deal done when the football games start, Labor Day of this football season. So he gives them another, 5 weeks to get a deal done? John Wilner said that the drop-dead date to get a deal announced was July 21st, the day of the media day for Pac-12. That did not happen. What's the real drop date? Everybody has a different day, I guess. But do you think Colorado's going to stay until September, Labor Day, to make a decision? I don't think so. But then again, George Kliavkoff, Kaufman, they need a deal soon so they can start budgeting for the future. They budget years out. Whatever they get in the media deal, they budget the next 5 or 6 years. And right now, it's hard to budget. It's hard to budget their expenses when they don't know what the revenue is going to be. George K. can't get a deal done by the time football season starts. Big Lubbock, isn't Bobby Robbins interviewing for the Stanford president job? Immaculate. Not saying Colorado's moving, but they aren't going to tell rank and file anything different until the public announcement comes. Provo U Cougar fan. Thank you so much, Provo Cougar fan, for your super chat. Colorado's decision to join the PAC has cost them almost $7 million. Staying may cost them even more. Yeah, I saw Jeff Fuller's numbers on that. I appreciate the super chat, Provo Cougar fan. Appreciate your generosity. We're going to get to your phone calls right now. Phone lines are open, 763-260-1333. Let me know what you think about Brett Yarmark focusing on basketball-only ads, starting to put some meetings together, starting to invest some real time.
Call from
Eric.
Eric, the floor is yours.
Hey, what's going on, Greg? I missed you for two shows back. Good to be back talking to you. Hope you're doing well.
Good. We're doing great. Thank you, sir. What's on your mind?
Hey, I'm going to do this real quick because it's not the important part of this call, but I'm like you. I'm a stand-up guy. I take my L's and I take my W's. I was wrong when I said the Mountain West announcement on San Diego State would happen that day of your show. It wasn't till later in the afternoon of the next day. So, guys, I take my L on that. And if there isn't a decision on Colorado by the 1st of August or by the end of the mid of August, I'll take my L on that too. It's looking more and more like I may be wrong on that one too. This is taking longer than I think most of us dreamed that it would ever take with that. Greg, did you happen to hear David Smock, who I have great respect for? He has some of the longest tentacles and some of the longest connections in college sports. You know 365 guys.
Yeah.
He spoke today about the whole Connecticut, and he was speaking more about football. I want to emphasize, at least the way I took it, he was speaking more about football than basketball. And I'm paraphrasing. Now, this is no way his exact words, but what I got from it was he was saying that Connecticut as a football member is basically a no-go. It's not even a serious consideration. The presidents are dead set against it, and there's no juice, period. And that UConn's not joining as a football member, probably, period, and definitely not for a long time. I would be perfectly happy with Connecticut as a basketball member, as I would Gonzaga, only. But I would never, I agree, I don't see him bringing anything to the table as a football member. So I would be fine with him as basketball, but David Smock says that's not even a consideration. Did you hear that today?
No, I did not.
And he said it's from one of his longtime sources that he really trusts, that he made it sound like somebody he takes to the bank. He said somebody that would be in the room and somebody that would know said they're not in serious consideration as a football member.
Well, we reported months ago that there was legit interest between Big 12 and UConn. It wasn't just a leverage ploy, but they would have to wait for the dominoes to fall. Yormark had great interest in UConn. Big 12 presidents are not with, they're not in line with Yormark on that, as a football ad. And there is a reason why Brett Yormark is having meetings this week. He's focusing on, he's trying to put more time into basketball-only ads. And in the Holy Smokes Theater, he brought Colorado and Gonzaga back behind the curtain, looking at some basketball uniforms, showing them the hoops, the basketball hoop. So obviously, what we're saying here in Act 13 is kind of in line with what David Smoke is saying. So
that's what I figured. Now, I think what I'm getting from your theater, I get the feeling that basically you have David Yormark there, and he's sitting there as kind of the guy, sitting there. He's done his homework. He got his deal with Fox and ESPN when he was able to jump ahead after the PAC turned down the deal. And so he's sitting there. He's in the casino. I'll use the analogy of a casino, a little different than a theater. He's sitting there playing with house money because he knows he's got his deal. He's not desperate. He knows what he has to offer. He's confident. He would like to have Colorado. The main value of Colorado isn't that they're the best ad, it's that they're the first ad, and it might entice others. So he's saying, look, here's what we have to offer. If you want it, here it is. I've done my homework. There's no more left to do. And if you want to come. And that's why he left the theater, because he's confident. He's playing with house money. And I'm sure you've seen those gamblers in the casino. They're kind of desperate. They're scrambling around. They're trying to make up their losses. To me, that's the Pac-12 commissioner. He's still in the theater because he has to be, because he hasn't closed the sale, and he's a little more desperate. He needs those teams more than Yormark does, and so he's still kind of in scramble mode. So he's still in the theater chasing his losses, trying to convince these guys to stay. Yormark's confident, doesn't feel he has to do that. He knows what he has to offer, and it's basically take it or leave it and make your decision. We'll be fine either way. Am I pretty kind of on in what I'm saying?
Yep. That's pretty much, you're pretty much on there. Yep.
And then the other thing I would ask you, it sounds like Arizona's interest hasn't gone down at all. It's just that Colorado has done a lot more due diligence and is farther along in the process. Would that be correct?
I cannot have, we no longer can have Arizona an arm lengths away from Colorado on the stage. There's just too much of a difference between the two. So when I say that Arizona's at the edge of the stage, Arizona is in play if Colorado moves to the Big 12. Arizona,
got it.
But they can't be an arm lengths away anymore. There's too much of a difference. Even what's been going on in July, there's too much of a difference between Colorado and Arizona, and there's too much of a difference between Arizona and what Arizona State and Utah have done. So that's why we had to back Utah and Arizona State to the 15th row. We had to put Arizona at the edge of the stage. But
this is kind of how I see it. I wonder if you agree real quick. If I'm Colorado, it seems to me your biggest value is that you're first.
Yeah, we've talked about that. Yep.
And because of that, and even Arizona to a certain extent, because Arizona they have great basketball values, but their football value is okay, but it's not necessarily great. If you look at their performance and their following in football over the last few years, it's okay, but it's not great. But their basketball is really good. So if I'm Colorado, and even if I'm Arizona, it seems to me that I'm leverage by going first and going now, because I think you and I both believe there's a good chance in 3 to 5 years Oregon and Washington are going to want to go, and as soon as they get a call, if they do get invited to the Big Ten, they're gone. Whether it's in 3 years or 5 years, it may never happen, but if they're not really committed to the Pac-12, they're only committed because they haven't been invited to the Big Ten.
Well, I but I think you can say that about every school. If any school got a call from the Big Ten or the SEC, they would be gone. So.
Oh yeah. But what I'm saying is, if they go, let's say they go in the next 3-5 years, Arizona and Colorado's main leverage is out the window now, because their main leverage was being first, and so they're probably not going to get near the deal they would get if they go now. So if I was Colorado, I would think about that long and hard, because if they wait too long, their leverage could just float away. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I get it.
Hey, it's a great show.
Thank you, Ed. Appreciate it.
Good talking to you again. Tell the little general to enjoy your breakfast, and y'all have a blessed week.
Got it. Thank you, Eric. Appreciate it.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Appreciate it. A lot of comments about Arizona backing off. They haven't backed off.
Call from
Lewis,
the floor is yours. How you doing, good sir?
Good morning, Greg. Well, it's a good setup for the theater, and it's not surprising. So I'll get to a couple 3 points, and then I'll get off. First, I'm glad that you feel the same way I do about UConn. All this discussion about UConn as a full member, that would be utterly ridiculous for the Big 12. I don't think Yormark's that incompetent to add UConn as a full member now with nobody else. UConn gets two major demerits that I can't get over with their football program, in addition to the fact that I observed their program when they were in the Big East and West Virginia was in the Big East back then. They had some success under Randy Edsel, But the program is not a Power 5 program. They play in a stadium that's a nice stadium, but it's in the middle of nowhere, literally, in East Hartford. It's not near campus. But they, in 2019, decided to sell the football program down the road and leave the American Conference, where they were struggling in all sports, to join the Big East. That was a great move for their basketball programs and for the rest of their athletics to move to the Big East, but it was terrible for football. But they didn't care. They prioritized basketball over football, and that's a rational decision, but that doesn't mean they should be a Power 5 football program. And the second issue, in 2020, they didn't have a football team at all. I believe Old Dominion is the only other team not to field in 2020. I think that's inexcusable to think that in 2023 they should be welcome as a Power 5 football member. I realize they had some success last year, went 6-7,
Yep.
but that doesn't mean they're 10 years, as other people have said, 10 years away from competition. The only way that works is if for some reason Big 12 gets one team only from the Pac-12, and they want to get a second team. So that's on that. On Colorado, I just feel, I'm very frustrated, but I feel like the Pac-12, the teams are not likely to leave. They may not get a great deal. They're going to get a deal at the back end, maybe because of the benefit of some consolidation. But I just don't think they are going to leave, or they don't want to leave. But if they do leave, Colorado will wait to the very last minute, and I still believe this could go into the football season. I heard James Crapia say he thought this had to be resolved by the football, but it could go into the season because at the end of the day, there's no hurry. Now, that's a risk by the Pac-12. If they go into the season and you're getting into November, December, you don't have a deal, and then they end up not getting a deal, and Colorado does leave, they have 9 teams. They're not going to be able to get anybody to replace them. So they're really playing with fire by waiting, but I think they'll wait. And the final thing on the basketball schools, and there was some discussion about this by our favorite West Virginia anonymous poster, MH version 3, had a whole series of posts about this in March, about the Big 12 looking at taking the major brands from the Big East Basketball Conference and adding to the Big 12 as basketball-only members and creating a tremendous conference. So that was around. Of course, I don't know how much you believe that, but it sounds like here, 4 or 5 months later, that's at least being explored. And
they are aggressively exploring it this week with meetings.
And Fox is involved in this because remember, Fox is the primary player for the Big East basketball. I believe their contract is coming up, so that could potentially happen. It's not a terrible thing. You have West Virginia and Cincinnati in the East. So adding some more basketball programs and also for other non-revenue sports that actually improves the travel for soccer, volleyball. That may not be a bad play. I just don't know the timing on it because we're still a long way away from a deal where the Big 12 can spin off the basketball separately. That can't happen for 8 years. So we will see, but it'll be interesting to see where it is. I would like to see Colorado come to the Big 12. I just don't know that it's in the cards at the end of the day. We shall see. A great show, great stuff for the theater, and I look forward to your comments and the other callers, and have a great day.
Beautiful. Thank you, Lewis. Great call once again. Legendary caller. Conundrum. Bobby Robbins is an MD. He doesn't care about athletics. I have to disagree with you, Conundrum. Bobby Robbins is very interested in sports. Of all the Pac-12 presidents, he's probably the most interested. He definitely has his finger on the pulse when it comes to sports. He knows the value of Arizona basketball. He knows the value of getting good visibility in this media package. Bobby Robbins is very knowledgeable about sports, especially when he's a university president. So no, he's at the top of the list of the Pac-12 presidents, having knowledge about sports and the value of sports, and all that. Again, the phone line 763-260-1333. Again, Big Ten Media Day starts tomorrow. ACC Media Day started today. Jim Phillips talked about how the ACC and the ESPN's relationship is tighter than ever. Mike Elko. Oh, I forgot to bring it up to Lewis. Mike Elko got a contract extension. I think it goes all the way to 2029. Duke's head football coach. That's big news. And the ACC has developed a women's gymnastic conference. I know they have 4 current ACC schools that have women's gymnastic. They must have added a couple other schools, affiliate schools, because you need 6 schools, 6 teams to have a conference under these current NCAA rules. So those were announced at ACC Days. Big Ten Media Days starting tomorrow. Tony Petitti. We're going to be going live at some point, I believe, episodes, Big Ten. So a lot of things going on this week. Lots of stuff going on this week. That's why earlier I put up this tweet. This was yesterday afternoon. If you actually do have a controlled positive message to release, this is not the week to do so. Not the week to do so. Unless, of course, you're the Big Ten, the ACC, who are having their media days this week. So that's why I put that out there. And again, we've got no steam on UConn, the Big 12 announcement happening this week. 0. We put that out there on Sunday. I got bombarded. I must have had 25 separate direct messages. People saying UConn to the Big 12 this week, UConn to the Big 12 this week. Yeah, that's not happening. That is not happening. So, golden blue dude. Yeah, think about him all the time. He would be loving this. He'd be exhausted as well. You know, nobody outworked Golden Blue Dude. But this long saga, he'd be exhausted right now. But he would be loving it as well. So, what's the vibe now, Greg? The vibe is that Brett Yormark walked off the stage. Doesn't need to say another word with Colorado. Colorado and Big 12 has spoken here in July. Again, they don't need to know anything more from each other. Brett Yormark is just waiting for the call to ask for an application. That hasn't happened yet as of this morning. We don't expect it to happen this week for the reasons we've gone through. But they have recently spoken once again, not in person, but they have spoken once again.
Call from
Charles Chamberlain.
Charles, can you hold on 1 second, sir?
Yep, no problem.
Just finishing up what the question from Immaculate is. And the vibe is that Brett Yormark is now pushing ahead, having meetings, talking about potential basketball-only ads. It's got got UConn and Gonzaga in the back of the curtain, behind the stage, looking at basketball uniforms. Gonzaga got into the auditorium for the first time in a couple of months. Gonzaga was in the popcorn line. Brett Yormark walked off the stage, took Gonzaga, took him back behind the curtain. So there is some real developments going on, some real time being used, some investment being used in possible basketball-only options. That's the vibe. That is the change in vibe in Act 13 in Colorado. Now it's just them and George Kliavkoff on the stage. Brett Yormark doesn't feel he needs to be there. He's done everything. He's walked off the stage. He's pursuing more at a different, of course he's not giving up on Colorado. No way, no how. But he's investing time in another angle to add value to the Big 12 years from now. And George Kliavkoff feels that he needs to be with Colorado there on the stage. So yes, it's a different vibe. Okay, Charles, the floor is yours. Thanks for your patience, sir.
No problem. Thank you. As I've been listening and following along here with this PAC-12 Media Deal story, I'm just struck by the great difference between the Big 12 being on the offensive and the Pac-12 being on the defensive. And I really think the Pac-12 has suffered like significant public perception harm in the way that they've handled this and the way that this is drug out. And I hear people saying, well, they need a deal by football season, but maybe it could drag on past then. But I think they really have to have some success story with their program in football season to have any chance of meaningfully surviving as a Power 5 conference. I just can't see this dragging out into the season and having the media story popping up and pushing down a success in their of a program. I think they need that program success from a Utah, from an ASU, from an Arizona, if they really want to move forward. I don't even think Oregon will do it for them, or Washington, because I think they're gone in the next few years anyways. And so I just like to hear from you what your thoughts are. What would it actually take for the Pac-12 to turn around this public perception problem they have?
Man, it would take a miracle at this point. They need to get a deal. They need to have linear partners willing to pay just enough to keep those schools on board when it comes to revenue. But they need to get it. They need to cobble it together, enough linear partners. And I don't think it's going to be ESPN. I don't think it's going to be Fox, although there's some reports that Fox was back talking to the Pac-12. They need to cobble it together, enough linear stuff to go with whatever streaming package they're going to have to keep those schools on board. And then they need to rock and roll for the next 3, 4, 5 years. Pac-12 football, it's going to be fun this year. I don't know. I have Washington in the playoffs. Some people have USC. I think they have probably more than 2 contenders to get to the football playoffs. But they really need to be, the content needs to flourish. They need to be exciting. They need to win championships. More eyeballs have to be on Pac-12. Wherever media package they get, it has to work. I mean, if it's on Apple, 3 years from now, it has to be working. It has to work better than any of us expect it to work for this turnaround to happen. I happen to believe that Oregon and Washington are going to end up being pursued by the Big Ten within the next 5 years. I've said that more than anybody else because there is an interest there from the Big Ten. There's an interest there from Fox Sports. So I think the Pac-12 is going to have a very difficult time. But, they're still standing. They still have the 10 schools. And we'll see what happens.
All right. Thank you.
You got it. Thanks for the call. Appreciate it. Jared Jones, biscuits and gravy on me. Appreciate you, Greg. Thank you, Mr. Buckeye. Thank you for your wonderful, generous super chat to the channel. Mireille, she will order those biscuits and gravy for her. I appreciate it. Thank you, Jared Jones. At 417 in 5 years. Breakfast burritos sound good, Alan Tran. The wife doesn't like burritos. She doesn't understand what burritos are. Out of the 32 states from Mexico, only a couple states in Mexico even create a burrito, even know what a burrito is. That's more like a Tex-Mex creation decades ago. So breakfast burritos, not happening here in the Flugar Hernandez Garcia household. But I'll have my boiled eggs and Greek yogurt and bacon. Craig, where's Turner in all of this? TNT, TBS, Warner Brothers. I would think that'd be great, except for they're just not in. They're not interested. Warner Brothers is not interested. At this point, no interest. I know they've had some, now they had layoffs as well. I know they're getting a big deal. They're getting a big deal together with that wrestling AEW. A bigger deal than they have now. So they're just not in the game. They're not in the game. I just want a cloak and dagger all day long. Very, very nice. Very nice. Cloak and dagger. And then
Call from
Monovision.
Monovision, I'm sorry to do this to you. Can I just have 30 seconds?
You got it, Greg.
Thank you. I appreciate it, sir. I just wanted to pop up. I keep forgetting to pop this up. The American Athletic Conference, excuse me, preseason media poll came out this morning as well. Tulane, 21st place votes, 457. Michael Pratt, the great quarterback, coming back for another year. Tulane Green Wave, they beat USC in the Cotton Bowl last year. They're number one in the media poll, but look at who number 2 is. UTSA, Texas San Antonio. The Roadrunners, 450 points. I'm sorry, 440 points, 9 first place votes. In our top five sleepers for Peek Around the Corner, UTSA was number 4 on the list to get to a New Year's Bowl game. We had Liberty number 5, UTSA number 4. We had Miami of Florida number 3. We had Baylor number 2. We had Kentucky number 1 as our top 5 sleepers. Look at UTSA, the Roadrunners, the 2-time Conference USA champions. This is their first year in the American Athletic Conference. And by the American Athletic Media Poll members, they were voted number 2. Look for Harris, that quarterback. Look for UTSA to challenge Tulane. They play at the end of the season, November 25th. That could decide the conference, who's going to go to the conference championship game, and in that game might decide who goes to the New Year's Bowl game. Okay, sir, Monovision, Mr. Buckeye, what do you got to say? What's going on?
Well, Greg, we had this discussion, well, not you and I, but Immaculate and Nate and Will had this discussion last night. I think if the Big 12 is legitimately to the point where they're talking about basketball-only members or expanding just to expand, it's a tremendous L for the conference. My hope is that Yormark is just doing this as posturing. I get that Colorado hasn't given him the answer he wanted yet, or a answer. It's, we're going to wait. But I don't know. I mean, if we're going towards, the Big 12 being the best of the rest, it's going to be hard for me to see them getting there, adding basketball-only members, targeting schools like UConn. It doesn't add up to me. I understand there's value in basketball, but football is,
Yeah. It's hard for me to grasp it as well. But if from Brett Yormark's perspective, if he's got some communication going on with people, some like Fox, if he's thinking of something here when it comes to the decoupling of the content of basketball and football and selling it separately, if there's something there, you can see why he might pursue what he's pursuing. And that is meetings this week, Motivision. Meetings this week in regards to what we're talking about here. So this is getting serious. So yeah, I mean, I agree with you, but from Brett Yormark's standpoint, when he's thinking he can add value because of basketball, maybe adding basketball-only schools, you know, then it kind of starts to make sense.
Right, but that's value you can't really add until their next media negotiation.
Sure, yep. Yeah, but I think...
So, I mean, it just...
Yeah.
Why is he doing it now? If it's 6 years away,
I think
why
Fox,
would he be so interested now?
I
Why
think
don't
Fox,
you wait and see?
Yeah, I think Fox might make it worth their while. Because you remember, Fox just grabbed the Big 12 basketball package. They're going to dominate it.
Right.
ESPN gets some, but Fox Sports. So I'm just telling you from, you know, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just, there has been a change of focus, of seriousness when it comes to this basketball only, and it's playing out this week, and of course the weeks ahead. But this week, especially, is really the start of this focus of basketball only, the potential. I'm just giving people a peek. People are going to be hearing about this and other reports coming out, I can assure you. So a little bit of it's a different vibe. It's a different, Yormark has elevated this potential basketball only scenario. He's elevated it. He's pursuing it. We'll see what shakes out.
Yeah, it just comes off to me, and I know Yormark's a salesman. It comes off to me as a car salesman saying, look, I've got somebody else interested in it. It just seems like posturing to me. I can't imagine what little money or what little revenue it would generate to add basketball only would be worth it to take the hit in perception. But that's just my opinion.
Yep.
You know, I could be wrong, but that's just the way I see it, you know?
Yep.
If that's the route they decide to go, that's the route they decide to go.
Yep.
Doesn't affect me until something happens with Notre Dame. So, no future big expansion without Notre Dame, Greg.
Got it. Thank you, sir. Fantastic. Thank you, Mr. Buckeye. And of course, it's not just about revenue, although that's the most important. It's also about if you gain a couple, and I'm taking this angle, I'm taking this as the Brett Yormark angle to this. Again, it's about getting in that New York media. It's about getting New York media to talk about Big 12 basketball. It's about New York media talking about Big 12 more often. So that could be potentially part of this as well. Part of the elevated value that the Big 12 would get in adding basketball-only schools, particularly out in the East. We shall see, but it's getting pursued. It's getting pursued more this week. It's been elevated. It has been elevated. Different vibe within the auditorium at PATC Holy Smokes Theater.
Call from
Immaculate.
Immaculate, the floor is yours. What's going on?
Good morning, Greg.
Good morning.
Still working on my first cup of coffee here.
Good.
You are going early today. Does this mean something?
No, it just means, well, first of all, I wanted to make sure we get out ahead of what does Act 13 mean. It's a different vibe. Brett Yormark has left the stage. Nothing more to be said to Colorado. No more needed. They had more talks in July. We can't give the specific date or why or how it came about. That will be talked about later. But Brett Yormark doesn't need to be on the stage anymore. Kliakov does need to be with Colorado. Everybody has peeled back some in the auditorium. Gonzaga and UConn are back behind the curtain on the stage looking at some basketball uniforms. Some new wardrobe entered the stage, like we said, on July 16th. This is what's going on this week, in the weeks up ahead. Brett Yormark is focusing on potential basketball-only ads, looking at it from their point of view, from the school's point of view, and hint, hint, wink, wink, from the media company's point of view.
Yeah. And that's a big one.
Yeah.
At some point in time, you talk, but at some point in time, then you just got to put your chips on the table and just stare down your opponents. As far as talk about the UConn thing, I know I've said a few things, and there's a lot of different discussion about it. I don't know how you really feel about it. Personally, I feel like they're probably already in the long-term plan for the Big 12. And that's the only reason why they're talked about is if, say, Colorado is worried about coming over, or if they do come over and there's no partner for them, that UConn could be a substitute partner because they're already in the future plan. And they do have a football team. I mean, it's not additive in value for football, but you could put them on the schedule. Whereas any of the other schools he's looking at to really push basketball in the future, I don't think that's anywhere in the near future. But any of those schools likely don't have football teams, so they don't help. But that's the only way I could see UConn anytime in the near future. Most G5 editions, if you're the Big 12, you're kind of telling the networks that you're not a good partner. Here, they've given you this great TV deal. It has a pro rata that says, hey, any P5, or now what we're calling them A5 schools, they'll get the full pro rata. And then you go and you add more G5s after that, you're kind of sending a bad message. So I think, I don't know if you agree with that or not, but just that Connecticut would probably just be a fill-in partner for now if Colorado is willing to go and no one else is. What do you think?
I think that has a chance of happening. I think that's, I happen to think if Colorado comes, that the Big 12 will get another one. But I understand there is a chance of that happening, where UConn would be the 14th school, full member. I also think, first of all, Brett Yormark wants to get into that New York media area. Okay? Yeah. He's going to pursue that until he gets it. Whether that be UConn basketball only, or somebody else basketball only up there, or a full member school somewhere up there. I mean, which basically has to be UConn. Years down the road, when the ACC probably implodes, right? There's going to be some schools out there that are not going to be wanted by the SEC or the big SEC of the Big Ten, like a Pittsburgh, possibly Louisville. You think of UConn with those schools, that might give enough value to the Big 12 to make sure they are the third conference headed in for the next decades, right?
Yeah.
So
go
ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that. And if people think that those schools are going to look at that and say, this is bad for us to go over there, I would respond and say, what has the ACC network done for you? And if you join the Big 12 in this type of way, as did by ESPN, in my opinion, my opinion, the ACC network gets turned into a Big 12 network. And these schools actually end up getting much better coverage across the country, and including in New York, because the Big 12 network, if it has this basketball focus, that gets you heavy into New York. And especially for the Northeast corridor, where that's bigger than football. So I do think that that's possible, but you're going to have to probably twist those schools' arms at least a little bit. I mean, they have to know that there's some type of threat to dissolve the conference via vote in order to get them to do that. But I personally think that's going on right now. That's why FSU and Clemson and North Carolina and Miami, all those schools made a lot of noise, and now they're all quiet, right? Like, it's like now with what you're saying about Colorado and the Big 12, there's a time for talk, and then there's a time to sit back and watch the effects of your talking happen. So
Yeah.
we'll see how that goes. That's what I think that Herbstreit was alluding to when he said at least 20. I mean, the SEC doesn't grow without ACC schools, so that's impossible to do. Without moving them.
Yeah. And I saw your comment earlier in the chat room. Yeah, if you're Brett Yormark and you have something positive to say, regardless of anything, right? This is not the week to do it. It's not the week to do it. This week is stacked. The reporters are elsewhere. They're working on stories. They're writing stories left and right about Big Ten and ACC. It just isn't. So if there was anything there, it wasn't going to happen this week. And then I'll just leave it at we believe, we know, or if you want, I'll say, I don't want to offend anybody. We believe at Peek Around the Corner that Colorado and the Big 12 have had serious discussions in the month of July. I'm not going to give the date on it yet. So the dance continues. It's very serious. I think the Pac-12 knows it's serious. I think all the reporters now know it's serious. I think most of the people watching this show, be it Pac-12, be it a Utah fan, be it a Colorado fan, be it an Oregon fan, be it a Washington fan, be it a Kansas State fan, I think most people now realize that all the reporting that we did and other people did about Colorado and Big 12 talking seriously, May 7th meeting, donor meetings at the UConn, all that was true. And it was all factual. And now we're waiting to see Colorado's decision. That's where we're at.
Yeah. On a slightly different note, did you happen to check out Joel Platt's interview?
Yeah, I did. I did. I watched it. It was interesting. I would say it was interesting, but somewhat predictable of what he was going to say. Like,
the parts about just the Big 12 was probably pretty close to what everyone thought.
Yeah. Now in that interview, he did bring up the international, right? Mm-hmm. Mark. Yeah, I wish that part would have been developed more. More international branding, marketing, whatever, expansion. I think he even threw the word expansion in there. I think he's talking about Mexico, but maybe he's talking about other things as well. It was a great interview. Brett Yormark sure does open up. If that interview would have happened like a month ago or 2 months ago, I think it would have been more impactful. But I think we kind of know. We kind of know everything he said, right? Or am I missing something?
The part that really caught me the most was actually the part that did not directly have to do with the Big 12. Now, we did a video going over all this, and some of the things that goes on about the Big 12 are big. Like when you're saying international, we were also kind of thinking Europe. Like there are parts of Europe that are very big into basketball.
Yep. Okay.
I think that's way down the road. So I kind of get why you wouldn't go big into that because they probably haven't really dove deep into it, so to speak.
Yeah.
But the part where he talks, Joel really kind of goes into him about his thoughts on the playoff and the future of it and what should be done. And his word usage and the things he said, I think should be very eye-opening for people. When he talks about a blank canvas, when he talks about completely re-auditing the entire thing and redoing it and remaking it, and his usage of the term A5 now and not P5, you're getting into a different realm. They're not, I don't think that we've had to talk before, my position, but I think this is kind of proving the point that they're not looking to actually just add 4 schools to the tournament in 2026, going to 16 and saying, all right, let's just keep going in this direction. I've put out one theory about where they're going. Could be something else, but I don't think that they're staying with the tournament as it is. And I think that was a strong indicator of it.
Yeah.
And that's just something for the future. Today and right now, all that's Colorado and this story. But just something to kind of ponder for folks is that maybe what they're thinking is happening in the more distant future here in the coming years is not exactly what's happening.
Got it.
But that's all I got. I'm very interested in this. But yeah, I was a little surprised to see you this early. I was thinking, oh my God, is something actually going to happen today? Because it's Big Ten days and ACC days. I don't see him trying to jump on top of them.
No, and Fox doesn't want that to happen. And yeah, this is not the week for that. But there's other stuff going on. There's definitely other stuff going on. That's what we talked about here. Act 13. It's the start of Act 13, not the end. The start, not the end. The start. I always have to make sure I say that. All right, thank you, Brian. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Have a great day.
Thank you. Larry Pilgrim. No one disputes Colorado talking to the Big 12. Well, Larry, I got to tell you, most people, common sense people, now don't dispute it. But you should still see my DMs. You should still see the Twitter comments that I get. You should still see what people say about Peek Around the Corner on some message boards. Larry, you should still see what a certain couple people out there in a very weird part of Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it are saying about this. There's still people out there who don't believe this is happening, that Colorado's talking the Big 12. Especially when we talked about it, when we talked about the hot bubble of action, when we talked about May 7th, May 24th, May 31st, we gave some information details in June after Pete Thamel cracked it open in public. We were given the okay to just go ahead and say it. We were still getting I was still getting all the arrows, Larry, and I'm still getting them today. So when you say no one disputes Colorado talking the Big 12, they are a minority of voices, but you should see what has been said about me when I first reported that it was happening, and and the dates and the city and how long that meeting took and all the details we had. I was accused of making it up, taking it out of thin air, using my Ouija board and all that stuff. But we worked hard on the story. We were fortunate to be working with some great people on the story. We were fortunate to be at the right place at the right time on the story. We were fortunate to give people a peek around the corner on this long saga that's been going on. Today, hardly anybody disputes that it's happening. But it took a long time to get people from there to here on that particular part of the story. So, but thank you, sir, for the comment. Big mistake turning UConn away from all sports. Big mistake, Charles M. I don't think it's a complete rejection of it, of that possibility. But this is what the commissioner of the Big 12 is pursuing, investing some time on this issue of basketball-only editions this week. And we've known about it. We've known about it at Peek Around the Corner. We're talking about it today. That's why it's a different vibe, different wardrobe, basketball uniforms coming on in. And Gonzaga, not been in the auditorium for the last 2 months, not in the Holy Smokes Theater. But suddenly they're in the popcorn line today. Suddenly Brett Yormark took them and UConn in the back behind the curtain. Suddenly they're talking about possible basketball-only editions, investing some time, talking with their media partners. So that is all. We'll see what happens. We shall see what happens with that. Again, that's just the start but it's the elevation of that potentiality that could possibly be what happens, along with other full member additions. So we'll see about it. Come home, Colorado. Come home and play the original rival, the Tech. Wow. Market Tech. Big Ten needs to focus on the pressure of North Carolina and Virginia. Oregon and Washington are not going anywhere and can be slow played. When does Act 13 end? I don't know. No idea, Nick Jones. Thanks for the question. We didn't know when Act 12 was going to end. On June 1st to July 24th, we had no idea it would take that long. So we don't, look, there was no way we could continue on with Act 12. It had to change. Things have changed. The difference between Colorado and Arizona, the difference between Colorado, Arizona State, and Utah, the difference between Colorado and the rest of the Pac-12 schools in the time they have invested, all the meetings internally, externally, with the Big 12, with their donors, with the Board of Regents, far surpasses what Arizona has done, what Bobby Robbins has done. So there's no, Colorado has to be on the stage alone with George Kliavkoff. Brett Yormark doesn't need to be there anymore. So it had to change. We couldn't go along with Act 12. There's been too many subtle changes that have added up to a big change. That's why we needed to start Act 13. And there is a different vibe. Brett Yormark doesn't need to be there anymore. Doesn't need to be on stage. The pitch has been told to Colorado. Colorado knows everything Big 12. They don't know everything Pac-12. They don't know the deal. George Kliavkoff still has to stand on the stage with Colorado. Still nervous about having Colorado move out of the conference. Pac-12 is scrambling to try to get a deal good enough to show that Colorado for them not to move. It is all serious. It is all real. So the vibe has changed at Act 13. When does it end? Hey, we don't have a crystal ball here at Peek Around the Corner. We just do the best we can to give you a peek around the corner. And we have this week Brett Yormark elevated his time, resources, meetings, trying to explore the possibility even more than ever before of basketball-only editions. You're going to be hearing about it from other reporters a week from now, 2 weeks from now, could even happen this week. We're giving you the peak happening this week, July 24th to the 28th, 29th. Within that range of days, things are happening. Brett Yormark making that a priority now, that discussion of possible basketball-only additions to the Big 12. We shall see. Dale Donuts talking about how the Hawkeyes are going to clobber the Gophers in the chat room. Boo, boo, boo. No! Grateful Trojan, the best solution is PAC and ACC merger. I don't see it happening. I don't know how that would even work. ESPN is not interested. And what is Washington and Oregon going to have to sign a grant of rights in 2036? I don't see it happening. I know I keep hearing about this, people bringing it up. I don't think it's a possibility. We'll see. I'll take the big L if it happens, or if it even gets to a serious stage. There's so much logistical hurdles for that to even... Yeah, I don't see it. Pilgrim says no merger, but possible scheduling. Could happen. Could happen. You might see some schools. You've already seen some schools, big time Big Ten schools saying, trying to pull their non-conference games that are scheduled years out from now with some Pac-12 schools. Maybe those get replaced by some ACC schools. So I can see the scheduling, like an alliance. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, Oregon, Washington won't sign a thing. Guaranteed. AAR. They're definitely not going to sign on that grant of rights to 2036. Nope. And then T-Duck, man, you're all going to have an egg on your face. If that's the case, T-Duck, I want it to be over medium. I'm not a sunny side guy. I want it over medium. Scrambled is okay. Over medium, egg on my face. That'd be fine. Why is Bobby Robbins dragging his feet with the Big 12? I don't know if he's dragging his feet. He wants to see a deal. He believes he has time, and he has Colorado. Bobby Robbins has Colorado. Colorado is the tip of the spear. Colorado will make the decision first, which would make it easier for Bobby Robbins to make a decision second. Arizona doesn't have to be the first one out there, so why should they be the first one out there? Bobby Robbins is in the spot where he exactly wants to be. And the reason why we had to take him out from an arm length away from Colorado, because there's too much of a difference between Colorado and Arizona in what have they done to prepare themselves for a possible move to the Big 12. We can't have them that close anymore. So we had to change it up. In the Holy Smokes Theater, we had to change it up. I don't think he's dragging his feet. I think he just wants to see a decent Pac-12 media deal. And then I think what the Pac-12 presidents are kind of wanting to hear from George Kliavkoff is George Kliavkoff saying, this is the deal and this is the best we can give for you. But George Kliavkoff keeps saying, well, the longer this deal goes on, the better it's getting. That's a great way to stall this out. It's a great way to buy himself more time. What Bobby Robbins, the time that Robbins has to act, is if and when Colorado acts. If Colorado decides to move to the Big 12, ask for the application, they'll be accepted immediately by the Big 12. They'll be accepted immediately by ESPN and Fox. Colorado would get the $31.7 million media payout just like the other Big 12 schools. If Colorado pulls the trigger, then Bobby Robbins won't, then all eyes will be on Mr. Robbins, President Robbins. But the eyes are not on him. We've said this months ago. That's why we had Colorado at the center of the stage, not Arizona. It's Colorado that is the straw that is steering the drink. That and the Pac-12 media deal is nowhere to be found. And I want to make this point once again. Okay? This is from the senior vice president, Apple TV, talking about how they don't want just part of the Premier League that has to do with tied to a certain country or certain region of the country or the planet. Apple wants all in. When they go into a space, they want all in. So then he was asked, the vice president of Apple TV, this was in Front Office Sports, what does that mean for other properties interested in partnering with Apple, like NBA or Pac-12? This is the vice president's answer. This isn't, hey, I've got an opening from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. tonight. I'm going to put this game on, Q said. That's not the way we're doing it. Not Apple TV. We're all in on this from an investment point of view So it doesn't work unless it's something significant. If Apple TV is coming in and spending money to get into the college football space, right? If Apple TV is going to enter into distributing Pac-12 content, they want the most significant part of that content. They're not just interested in having a little piece of it. They want it all. They want the most valuable part of it. So the question for Bobby Robbins, the question for DeStefano, the Chancellor of Colorado, the question for Michael Crow, the question for all the Pac-12 presidents, the athletic directors is this: do you want your top tier content, the content that raises all the ships, all the boats within the Pac-12, the content that brings in the money, the most valuable piece of what you can sell on a yearly basis? Do you want that content to be distributed, to be shown on Apple TV in the year 2024, 2025, 2026? That's the big question as the Pac-12 media negotiations goes on and on and on and on. So we're going to wrap it up here this Tuesday morning. Thank you for joining us here at PATC Breakfast. Act 13 has just begun. No, it hasn't ended. It doesn't end today. We don't know what the end date is. It's just begun. It has a different vibe. Big 12, Brett Yormark, pushing the envelope, seeing if basketball-only additions would help elevate the value of the conference 3, 4, 5 years from now. 5 years from now, Colorado is all alone with George Kliavkoff on the center of the stage. Brett Yormark, he's left the stage. He's too busy with other things. He has said everything he needs to say to Colorado, including a recent July discussion with the University of Colorado that will be reported by other reporters in the coming days and weeks ahead. So stick with us here at Peek Around the Corner. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel, smash that like button on the way out, and share the video with your family and friends. Subscribe to the channel so the next time we pop up, and it can be any time, breakfast, lunch, dinner, late night, it can happen anytime. You'll get notified, and follow us at Flug Empire on Twitter, because sometimes we put out a clue that what the next time that we are coming on here at Peek Around the Corner. I hope you've enjoyed the show. It's just started, Act 13, so stick with us until next time. From all of us at PATC to all of you, please, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.